Good afternoon and welcome to our very first Seminole County Lunch and Learn Facebook Live sessions. We will be hosting these every Tuesday and Friday at 12:30 during the month of April. The purpose of this is for our families to interact with us on topics that are important to you during this remote education time. Our topics for the next few weeks include social, emotional, mental health support, that's today's topic, elementary remote learning, middle school remote learning, high school remote learning, and finally, students with disabilities, educational and behavioral support. We selected topics that we thought were important to you while we all work together as a community through this crisis. I think during this time, it's a good reminder for all of us to remember that we're trying to guide with common sense and compassion. I've heard from many parents, many families. Some say there's too much remote work. Some say there's not enough remote work. Concerned about pacing, not sure how to organize their schedule with them working or parents working remotely and trying to be the teachers as well as an employee. Balancing life at home can be a challenge, and we're here to help with that. Some of you have had difficulty getting your daycare providers to provide learning time for your students, and we have some tips for that also. So during this session, we will be accepting any questions that come in through the Facebook Live feed, but we also sought questions on our email, which we'll be answering shortly. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Executive Director of Student Support Services, Dr. Michelle Walsh, and one of our district mental health counselors, Chrissy Moses.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this much-needed topic for us. This is an interesting time for us all. It is unprecedented, and our parents are wearing two different hats while trying to maintain order in the home and work from home in many cases, at the same time facilitating distant learning. And this is creating some stress and some tension for parent and for child. So we wanted to hit on some topics that we have been hearing from our parents, and the focus will be self-care for the parent, the caretaker, maintaining that positive relationship with the student, and maintaining or helping managing your child's anger and maybe loneliness and social isolation, and being kind to self and not looking for perfection. This distance learning is never intended or was never intended to duplicate or replicate what's being done face-to-face in the school. And so we need to release that perfection and be kind to ourselves at the same time. I'm going to be passing it over to Chrissy Moses, one of our district mental health counselors, in just a second, but I also want to share some resources that we would be posting for all of you as well. We have a SCPS mental health webpage. We also have an SCPS COVID-19 parent resource webpage that goes over some breathing meditation, some social emotional learning strategies, and curriculum for your child to use during this very difficult time at home. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy.
Hi. So I'm going to go over some self-care strategies as Dr. Walsh mentioned. It is going to incorporate self-care strategies for yourself and for your child, as taking care of ourselves is more important than ever right now. I know personally I need to do mini self-care sessions throughout the day to maintain my stress levels. So I'm going to start with one suggestion that has come up in many different ways or from many different people, and that would be creating a routine for yourself and your family. So if you've already done this or you're already doing this, then keep doing what you're doing. If you haven't done that, it's really important that you have some form of routine or structure, as this creates a sense of safety for your children. And as we know, their regular structure has been changed significantly in the last few weeks. And so maintaining a structure, so that would include like what time you wake up, showering, when you eat, and also when you take those self-care breaks. So, but a side note on the structure or the routine is maintaining some flexibility with it. So we don't want that structure to become something that is an added stress. And so there may be days where we need to alter that structure or that routine a little bit. Another nice idea with a routine would be to have your child create that with you. You could have them, you could draw it on a piece of paper, you can create stickers for when they've completed something. So make it as fun as possible, even though that's, it's time consuming to do something like that. It's really important, and it's going to save time on the other end if you take that time. And then that kind of merges into some behavioral issues. If we have structure and routine and consistency, that's going to eliminate or reduce some of those outbursts that you may be seeing. And so that comes into play in that area as well. And so a couple of other pieces for behavior would be to check yourself, and this is when we get into some of the more specific self-care strategies, but checking in with your own emotions. So if you're feeling irritated, frustrated, overwhelmed, it may not be the right moment to address something with your child. So taking a moment to take a few deep breaths, to take a time out. I've told my kids multiple times I need a time out, and I go to my bedroom and just take a few deep breaths, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. And then, so taking a pause for yourself. Other thing is how you approach something. So approaching a situation in a positive way, so looking at what behavior you do want as opposed to what behavior you don't want. And then also looking for praise. So where can we praise our children? This is a really stressful times for ourselves and for them. And, for many of our younger children, they may not really understand what's going on. And so really try and praise them for the things that they are doing well, as they're going to respond really well to that, as most of us do. And then moving into kind of more specific self-care strategies. That word is challenging to me today, some reason. So these don't have to be hour-long, boot camp kind of things. It can be a 15 or 10 to 15 minute break of mindfulness. So what that means is just focusing on your breath or focusing on something, a sound, and just taking a break from the usual chaos of our day-to-day. And you can find many options of free resources online of guided meditations. And like Dr. Walsh mentioned, we also have some resources on our parent page. And so you can get those resources. You could use this as a time to bond with your child, to maintain that healthy relationship, and perhaps do a meditation that's specific for children. Or you can use this as a time to get a break from your child and go do a meditation for yourself. So depending on your circumstances, you can choose what works for you. There are also many, many apps out there, and I mention it because they're really good, and most of them are free, at least as much as you really need is free. And so they have guided meditations for adults and for children, and so those are definitely something I would turn to in this time. I use one called Insight Timer, and there's Calm, there's Headspace, there's multiple different ones. If you just look it up, you'll find them. Some other ideas, so that's just one idea of a self-care strategy, but other things you definitely want to implement would be some form of exercise. So that doesn't, again, have to be running a marathon. It could be going for a walk, right? So keep it simple, be kind to yourself, and yet try as best you can to include some form of movement. So that could also be watching a video. There are many live streams. Lots of local studios are doing free live streams, and so you could get in on one of those, or you could watch a video, do it even with your child, which is a lot of fun. And again, though, you may want a break, so you could also do it separately. And then other things that are, kinds of self-care that you may not think about would be like gardening or coloring with your child. That would be a nice thing to do. And then don't forget those kind of regular healthy habits. So maintaining a really good sleep schedule. I know for myself, the first week I felt like I was on vacation, even though I wasn't on vacation. And so I would stay up late, but then be tired during workday. So, really maintaining a good sleep habits is going to be important. And then also diet. So, maintain as healthy as we can at the same time as being kind to ourselves. else do I want to add? Good for now. And so going back, I would say, even when, you have a structure, you've put in exercise, you have healthy eating habits, you have all these things in place, just know there are going to be days where that's easier than other days, and that's okay. Don't make yourself wrong. Just be kind to yourself, and also be kind to your child, knowing that they're going to also have good days and bad days. So at the end of the day, maybe go back to that praise and praise yourself. You don't have to say it out loud, but recognize something positive about how you managed with something in that day. And then also for your child, and it would be nice, obviously, if you told them something that they did really well that day and something you were proud of them for.
So, Chrissy, we were asked several questions on Facebook Live prior to this session, and so one of them is a common theme that, we really are we enjoy the social aspects of life, and we are creatures that don't run in isolation. So one of the parents said, my child is he doesn't have a phone and he has no friends in the area as they're new to their school this school year. How can this parent get her child connected to classmates so that he has someone to talk to? He's very lonely and really misses the social aspects and interaction at school.
It's a really good question. I think, I imagine he's not alone in feeling isolated in this current situation. So with that specific situation, I would recommend that they reach out to the school-specific teacher and maybe see if the teacher can connect them with other families that may be feeling the same and that would be interested in connecting maybe virtually or over the phone or something like that.
Okay. So there was another question similar to that one. This isolation was abrupt and has not been received well by her child, and is having a very difficult time dealing with it. Is there any way for there to be a platform where the students could possibly meet and socialize with their classroom or their friends through some kind of a safe way to do that?
So another good question. So there is Google Classrooms, which I believe they use for their schoolwork, right? And the district is working on creating some safe platforms that maybe expand that, so it would be more for socialization as well as not just for their education. So there's hopefully going to be opportunities, and we're going to obviously inform the parents once they become available. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. What are some of the resources that children can access for mental health? And does my child still have connection with their school counselor?
Okay. So as far as mental health goes, we are continuing as really in the same manner, although virtually, like we did when we were in school. So if you are concerned about your child, then you would reach out to your school counselor or to your school admin, and then they will connect you with the right person to help you get the resources that you need, whether that's with a district mental health counselor or a school social worker, or they can connect you with outside resources. There is also a crisis response resource it's on our information that we're going to be giving out, but I'll mention anyway, and that's through Devereaux, and that's 211, and that's just really good to know. It doesn't have to be crisis as in to that point of like a suicidal ideation, but it could be conflict between parent and child, and they will come support you and get you also the help that you need. So that would be more on a crisis situation.
So what are some of the signs of distress a parent should be looking for?
Another good question. So that's going to vary from child to child. I think you know your child best, and so paying attention to any drastic changes in your child is going to be the biggest kind of red flag or key for you to know that your child is under distress. So if your child is usually very bubbly and energetic and then suddenly is very unemotional or just unengaging, be aware of that, try and have conversations with them. And so it's going to look different for every child. And so unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for that, but I would say any big changes, and also changes that are lasting several weeks. But I will say caution to that. Obviously, there's going to be natural changes, like children are probably spending more time online than they did before, or on a computer than they did before. And can I put a side note in?
Of course.
Okay. Just a side note, I went through my piece really fast, and I forgot to mention just limiting social media, and also for ourselves as well as for our children. So we want to limit the amount of time that we are on social media and also on the news, but also limit how much your child hears you talking about the current situation, because it's really, really traumatic. And especially if I can't make sense of what's going on, then my body physiologically is going to feel like I'm under threat. So really being cautious and aware of how much we talk about, cases and numbers and those kind of things in front of our children.
So for all ages, elementary to middle to high, we are focusing on schoolwork through this distance learning and completing work in a timely fashion. But what does that do to mental health?
So there's a couple of ways of looking at it, but I think the way the intention is to maintain some form of normalcy in having that school work required, because we all need some kind of routine or structure, and so having them maintain that as somewhat a priority actually gives them something to get out of bed for and something to focus on, and can actually help their mental health, believe it or not, even though there is some other, on the other side, there may be some initial, like a learning curve to the different approach, but yeah.
Well, very good. So Dr. Griffin, do you have any other comments before we turn it over to Riza?
I do. A few questions have come in that I would like to address, not directly related to mental health. I think they're important for everybody. I continue to be asked, when are the students going back to school, or are they going back to school, and how is that decision made? And the way that it works is like this. The Center for Disease Control, the CDC, makes a recommendation 2 times a month. After those recommendations, the governor of the state of Florida and the commissioner have a conference call with all of the superintendents, and they give us direction, statewide direction. I anticipate the CDC coming out with further recommendations in the next week. So the day that I receive the information from the governor and from the commissioner, we will put that out to our families. Right now, schools are closed through May 1st, and we are awaiting further direction. The other question that I continue to get is, why are students being graded? I thought there were no more grades, and parents continue to get a little bit confused about this. Students are getting graded. Students will have report cards. Students will have a 4th quarter grade. What is not being graded are the schools themselves. The school grades are based on state testing, and every year each one of our schools is graded A, B, C, and so on. That will not be taking place this year in the absence of state testing. So Dr. Walsh, anything else before we turn it over?
No, we thank you for this opportunity, and if there are any other needs or concerns, parents can reach out to our department. That's the Student Support Services Department, and we'll answer any questions parents may have. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, familias de Seminole County Public Schools. Gracias por su sintonía esta tarde para este Facebook Live. Este tema de nuestro bienestar emocional es algo de suma importancia, y le damos gracias que están aquí con nosotros. Sin duda alguna, atravesamos algo muy nuevo y sin precedentes en nuestras vidas personales, en nuestras familias y en el aprendizaje a distancia. Esta tarde abordamos varios temas importantes en cuanto a estos cambios, como mantener relaciones positivas, Crear rutinas y estructuras que fomentan que sus hijos se sientan protegidos y seguros, mientras que sean rutinas predecibles, pero flexibles. No se olviden respirar profundo de vez en cuando y descuidar del descanso por la noche y durante el día y mantener la alimentación, que es súper importante también durante estos tiempos. Tenemos muchos recursos en nuestra página de Seminole County Public School en inglés y en español. Esperamos que puedan visitar nuestra página y ver la lista de estos recursos. Pero si necesitan ayuda o más información o se sienten que necesitan apoyo, especialmente en este tema del bienestar emocional, favor de llamarnos al 407-871-1115. Lo voy a repetir para los que necesitan buscar un bolígrafo para escribir. Es el 407-871-1115. También tenemos otro número secundario que pueden llamar por si acaso no reciban respuesta de una vez. Ese número es el 407-320-0245. 407-320-0245. Gracias de nuevo. Buenas tardes.